The Five Families are five Italian-American mafia groups active in New York City. Salvatore Maranzano organized them in 1931 after winning the Castellamarese War. Maranzano reshaped the Italian-American gangs in New York City into the Bonanno, Colombo, Gambino, Genovese, and Lucchese families. Each family held a designated territory, followed a structured hierarchy, and reported to a common governing entity. Originally, Maranzano envisioned each family's boss reporting directly to him as the capo di capi, boss of all the bosses. However, this resulted in his assassination that September, leading to the abolishment of the capo di capi role. In its place, Lucky Luciano established the Commission, a ruling committee overseeing all mafia activities in the United States and mediating conflicts between families. The commission included bosses from the Five Families, the Chicago Outfit, and the Buffalo Crime family. In 1963, Joseph Valachi publicly revealed the existence of New York City's Five Families during the Valachi hearings. Since then, a few other crime families have risen to a level comparable to the Five Families, earning the unofficial designation of the Sixth Family, leading up to the Families. In the 1920s, Giuseppe Joe the Boss Masseria controlled mafia operations in the US, with his faction primarily composed of gangsters from Sicily, Calabria, and Campania in southern Italy. Notable members included Charles Lucky Luciano, Albert Mad Hatter, Anastasia, Vito Genovese, Alfred Mineo, Willie Moretti, Joe Adonis, and Frank Costello. However, Don Vito Cascioferro, a powerful Sicilian mafioso, aimed to take control of mafia operations and sent Salvatore Maranzano from Castellammare del Golfo to seize control. The Castellamarese faction in the US included Joseph Joe Bananas, Bonanno, Stefano the Undertaker Magaddino, Joseph Profaci, and Joe Aiello. As tensions rose between the factions vying for mafia leadership, they actively recruited more followers in anticipation of a clash. The Castellamarese War outwardly pitted Masseria against Maranzano, but beneath the surface, it also represented a generational conflict. The Mustache Petes, embodying old guard Sicilian leadership with traditional values, clashed with the Young Turks, a more diverse and forward-thinking group willing to collaborate beyond Italian circles. Led by Luciano, the younger faction sought to end the war swiftly, viewing it as unnecessary and hindering their businesses. Luciano aimed to modernize the mafia, attracting followers who questioned Masseria's ability to prosper in contemporary times. The fluidity of both factions saw mobsters switching sides or betraying allies during the conflict. Tensions had been simmering since 1928, evident in frequent hijackings of each other's alcohol trucks, as alcohol production was illegal in the US due to prohibition. In early 1931, Luciano seized the opportunity to change alliances as the war favored Maranzano over Masseria. In a secret agreement with Maranzano, Luciano orchestrated Masseria's demise, aiming to receive Masseria's operations and become Maranzano's second-in-command. Joe Adonis, part of Masseria's faction, tipped off Luciano about a plot to kill him when Masseria learned of the betrayal. On April 15, 1931, at Nuova Villa Tamaro in Brooklyn, Masseria was killed during a card game. Luciano, excusing himself to the bathroom, was allegedly part of the hit, along with Anastasia, Genovese, Adonis, and Bugsy Siegel. Terranova drove the getaway car. With Maranzano's approval, Luciano assumed control of Masseria's gang, becoming Maranzano's lieutenant and concluding the Castellamarese War, the Five Families formation. With Masseria out of the picture, Maranzano restructured the Italian-American gangs in New York City into the Five Families led by Luciano, Profaci, Galliano, Mangano, and himself. Maranzano asserted his dominance by convening a meeting of crime bosses in Wappingers Falls, New York, where he declared himself capo di tutti capi, boss of all bosses. He favored his own rackets over those of rival families. Luciano, seemingly accepting these changes, was actually waiting for the right moment to eliminate Maranzano. Despite Maranzano being slightly more progressive than Masseria, Luciano believed that Maranzano was even more greedy and entrenched in traditional ways than Masseria had been. In September 1931, Maranzano recognized Luciano as a threat and enlisted Irish gangster Vincent Mad Dog Coll to eliminate him. However, Lucchese warned Luciano about the impending danger. On September 10, 1931, Maranzano summoned Luciano, Genovese, and Costello to his 230 Park Avenue office in Manhattan. Fearing an assassination plot, Luciano took preemptive action. He dispatched 4 Jewish gangsters, unknown to Maranzano's associates, secured with the help of Meyer Lansky and Bugsy Siegel. Disguised as government agents, 2 of them disarmed Maranzano's guards, while the other 2, guided by Lucchese, stabbed and shot Maranzano multiple times. This event marked the beginning of what later became known as the Night of the Sicilian Vespers, the Commission's formation. Following Maranzano's murder in 1931, Luciano convened a meeting in Chicago. Despite the opportunity to declare himself capo di tutti I capi, he chose to abolish the title, recognizing it as a source of trouble among the families and a potential magnet for ambitious challengers. Luciano's objectives with the commission were to discreetly maintain control over all families, prevent future gang conflicts, and ensure approval from the bosses. The commission, resembling a board of directors, was established to oversee all mafia activities in the United States and mediate conflicts between families. The commission comprised 7 family bosses, including leaders from New York's 5 families: Charlie Lucky Luciano, Vincent Mangano, Tommy Galliano, Joseph Bonanno, and Joe Profaci. Additionally, it included Al Capone from the Chicago outfit and Stefano Magaddino from the Buffalo family. Charlie Luciano assumed the role of chairman. The commission established a practice of convening meetings every 5 years, or as needed to address family issues. Decline of the Mafia. The 5 mafia families in New York remain active, albeit with reduced influence. The height of mafia power in the United States was in the 1940s and 1950s, peaking in 1970 until the enactment of the RICO Act. The primary purpose of the RICO Act was to combat the mafia and organized crime comprehensively. It proved effective, resulting in a significant number of arrested members becoming informants. This trend of members cooperating as informants has continued over time. Original and current family bosses. In 1963, Joseph Valachi publicly revealed the existence of New York City's 5 families during the Valachi hearings. According to Valachi, the original bosses were Charles Luciano, Tommaso Galliano, Joseph Profaci, Salvatore Maranzano, and Vincent Mangano. During his testimony, Valachi identified the current bosses as Tommy Lucchese, Vito Genovese, Joseph Colombo, Carlo Gambino, and Joe Bonanno. These names have since become the widely accepted references for the New York 5 families, enduring despite shifts in leadership over the years. Bonanno family, original family name, Maranzano, founded by Salvatore Maranzano, named after Joe Bonanno. Current boss, Michael the Nose Mancuso, Colombo family, original family name, Profaci, founded by Joe Profaci, named after Joseph Colombo. Acting boss, Little Robert D'Onofrio, Gambino family, original family name, Mangano, founded by Vincent Mangano, named after Carlo Gambino. Current boss, Domenico Cefalu, Genovese family, original family name, Luciano, founded by Lucky Luciano, named after Vito Genovese. Current boss, Liborio Salvatore, Barney Bellomo. Lucchese family, original family name, Galliano, founded by Tommy Galliano, named after Tommy Lucchese. Current boss, Victor Amuso. Acting boss, Michael Big Mike DeSantis. territories. Historically, the crime families operated primarily within New York City, but extended their influence throughout the New York metropolitan area. In the state of New York, they expanded their criminal activities to include Long Island, Nassau and Suffolk, and the counties of Westchester, Rockland, and Albany. Additionally, they maintain a significant presence in the state of New Jersey. The five families are also active in South Florida, Connecticut, Las Vegas, and Massachusetts. The Bonanno crime family predominantly operates in Brooklyn, Queens, Staten Island, and Long Island. Their influence extends to Manhattan, the Bronx, Westchester County, New Jersey, California, Florida, and Atlanta. Additionally, the family has ties to the Rizzuto crime family in Quebec. The Bath Avenue crew was active in the Bensonhurst section of Brooklyn, New York. The Colombo crime family primarily operates in Brooklyn, Queens, and Long Island. Their influence also extends to Staten Island, Manhattan, the Bronx, New Jersey, Georgia, and Florida. The Gambino crime family's primary operations are concentrated in Brooklyn, Queens, Manhattan, Staten Island, and Long Island. They also hold influence in the Bronx, New Jersey, Westchester County, Connecticut, Florida, and Los Angeles. The Genovese crime family's primary operations are centered in Manhattan, the Bronx, Brooklyn, and New Jersey. Their influence extends to Queens, Staten Island, Long Island, Westchester County, Rockland County, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Florida. The Lucchese crime family primarily operates in the Bronx, Manhattan, Brooklyn, and New Jersey. They also maintain influence in Queens, Long Island, Staten Island, Westchester County, and Florida. Mafia boss succession, Maranzano, Bonanno family. Between 1909 and 1912, Sebastiano Di Gaetano was boss of the Bonanno family, formerly known as the Maranzano family. Following Di Gaetano from 1912 to 1930, Niccolo Schiro assumed the position of boss, but eventually fled. The period from 1930 to 1931 saw Salvatore Maranzano in action as boss until his murder on September 10, 1931. Joseph Joe Bananas Bonanno took over the family as boss from 1931 to 1968. On October 21, 1964, Bonanno disappeared, prompting the commission to forcibly replace him. The family split into two factions, and although Bonanno reappeared in May 1966, he officially retired in 1968 after suffering a heart attack. During the leadership dispute from 1964 to 1966, Gaspar Gasparino Di Gregorio briefly held the position, but was later replaced by the commission. From 1966 to 1968, Paul Sciacca served in an acting capacity for the Di Gregorio faction. Following this, from 1968 to 1971, Paul Sciacca held the position, but was later imprisoned. Natal Joe Diamonds Evola took leadership from 1971 to 1973 until his death on August 28, 1973. Philip Rusty Rastelli then served as the leader from 1973 to 1991, facing imprisonment from 1975 to 1984 and again from 1986 to 1991. During Rusty's prison sentence, Carmine Cigar Galante unofficially led from 1974 to 1979 until his murder on July 12, 1979. Salvatore Sally Fruits Farrugia acted from 1979 to 1983, appointed by the Commission. Anthony Old Man Sparrow took over from 1987 to 1991 and was sentenced to life imprisonment in 2002, passing away in 2008. Joseph Big Joey Messino assumed leadership from 1991 to 2004 until his imprisonment in January 2003, becoming a government informant in October 2004. Anthony Old Man Sparrow temporarily led from 1991 to 1993, and Anthony Tony Green Urso acted from 2003 to 2004 until his imprisonment in January 2004. Vincent Vinny Gorgeous Bassiano held the position from 2004 to 2011 until his imprisonment in November 2004, receiving a life sentence in July 2007. Michael "The Nose" Mancuso acted from 2004 to 2006 until his imprisonment in February 2006. Salvatore Sal the Iron Worker Montagna served from 2006 to 2009 until his deportation to Canada in April 2009, followed by his tragic death in November 2011. Vincent Vinny TV Badalamenti acted from 2010 to 2012 until his imprisonment in January 2012. Since 2013, Michael "The Nose" Mancuso has been in a leadership position after being released from prison on March 12, 2019. Thomas "Tommy D. DiFiore acted from 2013 to 2014 until his arrest on January 23, 2014. John "Johnny Skyway" Palazzolo took on the role from 2014 to 2015 until his arrest on March 27, 2015 for violating parole. Joseph "Joe C." Camerano Jr. acted from 2015 to 2019, being indicted on racketeering and extortion charges on January 12, 2018, and subsequently acquitted on March 13, 2019. Profaci Colombo family. Between 1928 and 1962, Joseph Profaci was boss until his death from natural causes. From 1962 to 1963, Joseph Magliocco assumed the leadership position but was compelled to retire by the Mafia Commission. Joseph Colombo took on the boss role from 1963 to 1973 until he was paralyzed by an assassination attempt. During this period, Joseph Iacovelli became acting boss from 1971 to 1972, but fled after the murder of Joe Gallo. Vincenzo Vincent Aloy took on the role from 1972 to 1973, but was later imprisoned. Joseph Joey Brancato then acted in 1973, but was subsequently imprisoned. Carmine Jr. Persico became boss from 1973 to 2019, facing imprisonment from 1973 to 1979, 1981 to 1984, and 1985 until his death on March 7, 2019. Thomas DeBella acted as boss from 1973 to 1979, but later stepped down to become the consigliere. Alphonse Aliboy Persico, Carmine Persico's brother, assumed the role from 1981 to 1983 and was a fugitive from 1980 to 1987 before being imprisoned. Gennaro Jerry Lang Langella took on the role from 1983 to 1984, but was later imprisoned. Anthony Scappi Scarpati acted from 1985 to 1987, but was later imprisoned. Vittorio Vic Orena acted from 1987 to 1991, but was later imprisoned and sentenced to life. The leadership role was vacant from 1991 to 1993, marked by disputed leadership during the Third War within the family. Andrew Andy Mush Russo acted from 1994 to 1996 until his imprisonment in March 1997. Alphonse Little Ali Boy Persico, Carmine Persico's son, assumed the role from 1996 to 2019 until he was imprisoned and sentenced to life in 2009. From 2019 to 2022, Andrew Andy Mush Russo became boss, being indicted on September 14, 2021, and passed away on April 18, 2022. Mangano Gambino family. In the early 1900s, Ignazio the Wolf Lupo led the family until his imprisonment in 1910. Following this, from 1910 to 1928, Salvatore Toto D'Aquila assumed control of the Brooklyn Camorra, merging with Al Maneo's gang to establish the largest family in New York. Tragically, he fell victim to an order from boss Joe Masseria in 1928. Subsequently, from 1928 to 1930, Manfredi Alfred Mineo operated until he was killed during the Castellamarese War in 1930. Between 1930 and 1931, Frank Scalise held the boss position, but was demoted following the murder of boss of all bosses Salvatore Maranzano. Vincent Mangano served as boss from 1931 to 1951 until his disappearance in April 1951, allegedly killed on the orders of underboss Albert Anastasia. Albert Anastasia operated as boss from 1951 to 1957 until his murder in October 1957 on orders from Carlo Gambino. Carlo Gambino led the family as boss from 1957 to 1976 until his death from natural causes in 1976. Following this, from 1976 to 1985, Paul Castellano took over until his murder in December 1985 on orders from Capo John Gotti. John Gotti ruled from 1985 to 2002, faced imprisonment in 1990, and passed away in 2002. During John Gotti's prison sentence, his son John A. Gotti took over the mantle and served as leader from 1993 to 1999. However, he too ended up in prison in 1999 and eventually retired. Peter Gotti, John A. Gotti's brother, took over as official boss and served from 1999 till he was imprisoned in 2002 and passed away in 2021. Since 2011, Domenico Italian Dom Cefalù has led the Gambino crime family, with Frank Cali and Lorenzo Menino stepping in as acting boss. Luciano Genovese family. In the late 1890s to 1909, Giuseppe the Clutch Hand Morello was boss until he faced imprisonment. From 1910 to 1916, Nicholas Nick Morello Terranova stepped into the role until his unfortunate murder on September 7, 1916. Vincenzo Vincent Terranova ruled from 1916 to 1920 until he voluntarily stepped down, assuming the role of underboss. Giuseppe the Clutch Hand. Morello then took on the position of underboss to Masseria from 1920 to 1922. Giuseppe Joe the Boss Masseria led the family from 1922 to 1931 until his murder on April 15, 1931. Charles Lucky Luciano from 1931 to 1946 became boss until his imprisonment in 1936, leading to his deportation to Italy in 1946. Frank the Prime Minister Costello occupied the position after Luciano's deportation from 1946 to 1957 until his resignation in 1957 following a Genovese Gigante assassination attempt. Vito Don Vito Genovese became boss from 1957 to 1969 until his imprisonment in 1959, ultimately passing away in prison in 1969. Philip Benny Squint Lombardo took over the mantle from 1969 to 1981 until his retirement in 1981, followed by his death from natural causes in 1987. Vincent Chin Gigante became boss from 1981 to 2005 until his imprisonment in 1997, eventually passing away in prison on December 19, 2005. Since 2010, Liborio Barney Bellomo has been the boss within the Genovese crime family.